We've now seen the state of Azeroth, and as it turns out, it's a little complicated. Now there's good stuff, there's more raids than ever, a massive evolution to delves, confirmed housing features that everyone's been asking for. So in a way, within 30 minutes, Blizzard made some of us very happy about Midnight's future. But why then are other people in full doomer mode? Well, I'll start with the most important part, the news that matters to you. Probably, if you're watching this channel.
But first I have to give a Shadowlands-shaped shout out to my country's panopticon-loving Home Secretary. Privacy stuff's getting worrying. I mean, right now the UK government is in court trying to force Apple to weaken encryption. You've got the Online Safety Act just expanding, and over in the US, there's still no federal big privacy law. It's a patchwork of state rules, breaches keep piling up, and privacy everywhere is kind of eroding. That's exactly why I use today's sponsor, NordVPN. With Nord, I can browse from anywhere. Usually I just VPN over to Ireland though. And I do that when I want to, skip the surveillance. Get the same internet, but not get all of the annoying hassle. And at nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft, you'll get yourself 4 months for free on a 2-year plan backed by the 30-day money-back guarantee. But it ain't just privacy. Nord can actually pay for itself by allowing you to exploit dynamic pricing. Airlines, software, car rentals, they all often charge differently based on location. So you can browse from another country and quite literally see prices drop. And that means that over a few smartly done bookings, you'll have already covered the subscription cost in your savings. All you have to do is clear your browser cookies and then browse from other countries and watch the prices drop. And one smart booking can basically cover the subscription's cost. And while you're out there outsmarting regional pricing, Threat Protection Pro handles actual threats. Things like malware, phishing, trackers, and it's dead simple with their mobile and desktop apps. There's no technical knowledge needed, even though a VPN sounds like a very techie thing. It's all super easy, and you get 4 months for free on a 2-year plan at nordvpn.com/Bellular Warcraft.
Here's the big thing, the 2026 roadmap for Midnight. Now, when we look at it, we see that the launch content isn't new, it's what we expected, but that's okay, and everything after it is new. Patch 1205 will be a fairly small patch like usual, but unusually, it's actually going to bring some new content. There'll be Void Assaults, which are a new world event across the Midnight Zones, and that's all we know about those, and more importantly, there's Prop Hunt. Yes, Prop Hunt is coming to the game. They're calling it Decor Duel, and it's a cute 5v5 game of hide and seek. So, they're hopping on a few trends. This one may be a little bit, maybe a decade late, but hey, I'm sure Steal a Brain Rot Warcraft Edition is coming anytime soon. Really though, I think this is a fairly cool idea. It would not have taken that long to make, and I think that having some in-game filler is important for an MMO. Things that allow you to just hang out, maybe the sort of thing you could even call some friend slop. Yeah, I can imagine groups of friends actually having fun with this when they don't have energy to push Mythic Plus or grind Endeavor progress. Pretty good for streamers as well. Anyway, then 1207, that's when we get the biggest news of all, and that is that Blizzard are finally tackling the downtime between seasons. They're adding mid-season raids into World of Warcraft, and this will start with Sporefall, which will be a one-boss raid right in the middle of Season 1. Now, we weren't told what impact it would have on gearing, but honestly, I don't think that's really the most important issue. At the end of the day, we do get our gear so we can do the raids. They are the thing that actually matters. But there's one raid thing Ian said that maybe went a bit under the radar that I think is important, and that is that they're just trying to tell more stories and make more raids. I really like that, and you'll see how it develops through the roadmap. I've got a feeling this will be fairly big though, and well, let me tell you why. And stop me if this sounds familiar, but you play like crazy for a few weeks to gear up and blast through some patch content. Then you start raid logging once your gearing slows down and you're near the end. And then once you've finished your goals, you still want to play, but logging into the same old raid just feels hollow. So, you log in, run around, play an alt for an hour or two, and just kind of give up. You log out basically until the next patch. I may not have described you, but I think there's a fairly good chance I just did, and I know for sure I'm talking about most of my guild. Basically, the day we get ahead of the curve is usually the last day that we see some people for 6 months. And it's not for any bad reason, it's just they've finished the bit of the game they enjoy most. With this, there'll be something real to come back for, and more often. And my guess is that Ian's data wizards will have shown him that a whole lot of people play just like that. And what I like here is they're going to solve this by making new bosses instead of trying to make some infinite system or stretching the same content out and out and out. Moving ahead then, we have patch 12.1. So Ian showed some restraint here. He said nothing about where we're going or what we're doing. All he shared was the kind of thing that was coming, and it's all the usual season stuff. There's new everything, so really no surprises. Except for one thing. They are finally tackling World of Warcraft's extremely outdated friend system. We don't have details on what this will look like, but I think that's rather telling. WoW's social features really have needed work for a long time, so it's good to see them do that. And if you combine that with Prop Hunt and Neighborhoods, I think a pattern emerges here. It's Blizzard trying to make WoW an MMO again, instead of just a seasonal content treadmill. That's really good. Okay, 12.1.5 brings us something properly new. Big Delves, or more properly called Labyrinths. So these are inspired by mega dungeons, and they're aiming to get the same feeling as a delve, but bigger. So you'll go in with Bellular, maybe some friends, and you'll fight and explore your way through. Now, the difference isn't just that it's a delve, but bigger. Ian says they won't have the same reward structure, and they'll also save your progress. So it basically seems you can tackle them bit by bit if you want. And really, Mega Dungeon Delves is just a great pitch. I think sometimes the bite-sized sort of in-and-out nature of Delves can feel a bit basic and a bit repetitious. So I'm kind of excited to see what they're going to do here when they have more room, when it seems like you'll actually have different choices and how you path your way through it. That seems really neat. And speaking of more, well, the last few WoW expansions have gotten more and more formulaic. We finish a raid, get a cutscene, and it'll leave us a few little breadcrumbs that'll lead us to the next boss. Then we have middle patches that are some sort of detour or distraction, and the game just feels a bit all over the place. This time, they're using the middle patch to continue the story more directly, and instead of just quests, there is another one-boss raid. And it's one that is, and I quote, a direct continuation of Midnight's narrative. So I think it's fairly clear then that they heard all the feedback about the Arathi campaign. Good shit then. Now, that all does sound good, but you may also be wondering, when's the next remix or Plunderstorm? And you may have remembered that last year we were teased a screenshot of something in Duskwood. We were promised spooky vibes, but it never materialized. That is perhaps until now, because on the roadmap we can see it scheduled for autumn, and we've got this concept art, which is Stormsong Valley, but being broken apart by what looks like Drust magic. So it's basically sort of classic old god vibes meeting the Druids of Death. Looks pretty cool, sounds kind of spooky to me. I have no idea what it is, but I'd put my money on it being a little bit out there and a bit interesting. And assuming it's the same spooky vibes thing that they teased last year, then this would have been in the works for quite a long time, at least by the time we actually get it. Now, on housing, lots was talked about. Ian promised tons of new updates. He had a few, though, that he could finally announce, and that is mounts and pets in your houses and outside of your houses, mass item selection and moving, copy and pasting, plus the import and export codes for full house designs, as well as budget increases. Gotta be real with you, these are absolutely fantastic. You can make absolutely incredible things. The example they use is grand pianos, but moving them and tweaking them was an utter pain. That is now going to be a solved problem. That's it for major Midnight updates, but Ian ends by saying that this BlizzCon will be, quote, one for the ages, and that they're going to be talking about the next 20 years of Warcraft. That's a long time. I thought we'd be hearing about The Last Titan, and I assume we still will, but maybe they'll be teasing a little bit more than that. Pretty damn cool, but unfortunately, it seems that selling BlizzCon that hard may have backfired, and may be part of why some people kind of hated the state of Azeroth. Right, so by now you know what Ian announced, you know about the mid-season raids, the mega dungeons, and a bunch of really great minor updates. That all sounds great to me as someone who's primarily playing retail. I mean, they're all retail now, but you get what I mean, modern WoW. But if you check online, you'll see a lot of people who are, not best pleased. So let's talk about them, and let's talk about the rest of the video. You see, Ian only came out to talk about Midnight, about a third of the way through the video. And then it was another third of the video again until he started talking about the roadmap. which began at minute 21. So in a 29-minute showcase promising news, about 11 minutes of it was news. The other 18 were split between Holly talking about the community, about housing, and about Classic, and then Ian recapping the expansion features that we all already know. Of course, when I say we all, I don't mean every WoW player, I mean the likes of you and me who make and watch YouTube videos about it. It's one of those things where a big marketing event like this is always going to heavily have some recap in it because they're trying to reach beyond you and me. That being said, if you were a Classic player, well, you wouldn't really have learned anything, except that Mists of Pandaria and the Burning Crusade will continue at their usual pace, which really isn't news. And that meant that for those players, it was barely worth tuning in for. Except for one thing, the fake out. They did a fake out of Classic Plus. Seriously, just listen to this.
And that's not all we're cooking up. I can say with confidence that all Classic players across the globe have a lot to look forward to. I'm really excited to announce that... I guess we'll save that for later.
That's just cruel, and I absolutely love it. But I do get why it wasn't exactly satisfying for a lot of people. Still, I do think personally it was playful and fun. But the point basically is, I would say, I'd imagine, that they've got Classic Plus lined up for BlizzCon. And they would obviously want this to be a gigantic moment. But for it to be a gigantic moment, you can't just give it away really early. But of course, they've now made it an open secret, and that means that now the entire community is riling themselves up waiting. They know Classic Plus is coming, but they've got absolutely no idea what it is or when it's going to be, which maybe does have elements of excitement, but it does appear to have quite a lot of frustration in it as well. And in the absence of information, people start to imagine things. Some of it will be stuff that you, the team, are definitely working on, but I can promise you, Blizz, people are building a fantasy of Classic Plus in their head that is not the one that you're going to release. It's been so long that some have even made a whole website to fantasize about it. So at BlizzCon, whatever they do with Classic Plus, it better be a spectacular showcase and a shockingly close release date. Now, the other complaint that I saw with this was housing. No one has any real complaints about the system itself. It's fantastic, we love it, maybe you love it, and I think the people who aren't interested don't really see it as some big threat to the version of the game that they play. But there is a difference between just having a favorite child and then rubbing that in all the other kids' noses, which is what you see, at least be the impression people got when you skim through the comments. And it's just that people seem a little bit sick of housing getting all of the spotlight, even some of the people who love it. So at the end of the day, this video is a classic Blizzard move. It wasn't made for us, the people who regularly play WoW and stay on top of the news. It was mostly something else, a poorly disguised advert for lapsed players and new players. And on that front, it did a pretty good job. Effectively, it's them taking the usual thing they do of releasing a roadmap and doing a big video presentation along with it. For the likes of us, the roadmap is the thing that was important. Their bet, basically, is that for the big, broad audience that they're marketing to, well, the rest of the video is good for them. It's a shame that the way that they did it led to a wave of negativity, though I have a note for Ian, and that is just, be careful when you end on one more thing, because people are trained to expect a big announcement there. Every gaming showcase does that. So they ended on this advert for housing. And I think visually, yeah, sure, it's an incredible ad. Personally, it does represent World of Warcraft no longer looking and feeling like the World of Warcraft or the Warcraft that I knew, because it is just so saccharine. But anyway, did look quite nice. GG to, all the technical artists and all the people doing the rendering. Very nice. But when you end in something like that, people will think it's an announcement or something, not just an ad for a thing that they already are knowing and playing. Little bit weird. But anyway, that was Blizzard's big announcement. For Midnight, there's actually a lot of brilliant news. We saw an advert, and we got the promise of more news at BlizzCon. With all that said, here's what I really think about the state of Azeroth 2026. We're actively watching World of Warcraft fall apart right now. The game's absolutely packed full of bugs. Even core parts of the leveling experience, the whole revamped one for new players, are literally broken right now, and at least had been for weeks and weeks and weeks. Their execution of the very important basics of the game, like reward balance, kind of treats us like idiots for playing at launch. Now, at the same time, the upgrades to systems here are great, and in the near future, we are being promised very welcome improvements, and it seems there'll be welcome improvements for the rest of the year. Over in Classic, yeah, people have got plenty to do. They're starving for something new, but they do have plenty to do. But ultimately, I think this. If Midnight releases without literally exploding, and Blizzard's idea of Classic Plus isn't a massive catastrophe, then I think the state of Azeroth will be quite healthy indeed. And on the topic of those bugs and those problems, I'll have plenty to talk about in tomorrow's video. But for now, that's it for me. And if you want insight into how this game is actually made, well, we went and tracked every single developer across multiple expansions. We learned a lot of things, and you can watch the video here next.